and welcome back to another episode of Remembering Forgotten Memories. So, this one, we have to go way, way back for this one. I have to set the scene. So, a lot of you who've been here for years following my story know my grandpa used to be the president of the CSHA, which is the California State Horsemen's Association. In the years where he wasn't president, he was at least vice president, treasurer, secretary. He was always some higher up position within it. Many, many years. And yet, for as much paperwork as he did for them, he really was a Luddite in terms of computers, even though his kids were trying to get him to switch over to a computer. They even, signed him up for classes to learn how to use, one of those early Mac computers and stuff. And he knew how to do it, but he didn't want to, because he liked his typewriter. His electric typewriter, which I'm kind of sad I didn't inherit. Even though I have computers, I have printers, I have no real need for that, but there is a certain charm to it. And a lot of times when I think about my grandpa, a lot of times the first thing that comes to mind is either him gardening, or it's him on the tractor in the fields, or it's him with the horses, or it's him in his office at his typewriter, hours at a time, not wanting to be bothered, just drafting up whatever. And that just, to me, seemed so alluring as a little kid. I don't know why. It just, my dad and uncle had computers. They are clearly more advanced than this typewriter, but something about the typewriter, caught my imagination, caught my interest. I just found it fascinating. And as a little kid, I don't even know how many years in a row, I asked if I could have my own typewriter. Sorry, I have a hangnail. I asked if I could have my own. And for, I think, either Christmas or my birthday, when I was 7, I finally got one. And the picture I am using for the thumbnail of this video is, in fact, the one I had. Not the literal one I own, but it is the same model, same typewriter I owned. I found a photo, and you have no idea how hard I had to search to find that photo. But anyway, oh my god, I literally squealed. I was so excited when I opened that thing, which sounds so nerdy in hindsight, but on the other hand, so me. Why exactly did I want one so bad? Don't know. Saw my grandpa with one, thought it was cool as shit, wanted my own. Obviously mine was scaled down for a kid. It wasn't a toy. It was very much a fully functional electric typewriter, as his was. It just was scaled down a little for kid hands, but it was still decently sized. It was respectable. I was still doing homework on it occasionally if my printer was broken into high school. So, it served a purpose long beyond its intended one. But I got that. And the very first thing I did was just try to practice typing. No one told me to do this. No one suggested I do this. This was completely intuitive on my part. I would just pick up a random book, prop it open in front of me, and try to copy down a random page in it and see how fast I could do it and how accurately. Little did I know there was entire computer programs to teach you to do the same thing. Mario teaches typing, Mavis Beacon, all of those, which I would use later on in school, but by that point, I was already well indoctrinated into this shit because I'd been doing it on a typewriter for years. So then once I got the hang of that down and the feel for it, knew how to change out the ribbons, knew when to when to change out the pages, knew how to adjust the margins, all of that. Mind you, I'm 7 as I'm doing this, right? 7 fucking years old, and I am enamored with this typewriter. So then I started typing letters to my friends, snail mail letters, on a typewriter, whereas they're handwriting them. They're oh my god, it looks so official. I'm I know. And there was that. But I feel they didn't like it as much because it didn't feel as personal, and I can respect that in hindsight. But at the time I was dude, no, this is so much better, you don't even know. And then I started writing stories on it, and it was so much faster than trying to do it by hand, and I could actually read it back later, or shocker, because a lot of people who are autistic, as I am, have a hard time with hand-eye coordination, especially when it comes to handwriting. Doesn't matter how much I've practiced in my life, I still try to practice it. It still looks like a child at it. It's embarrassing how bad my handwriting is. But I was really good at typing. So, I mean, even throughout elementary school, I was like the only kid in my class where the teachers were giving me this device that was essentially a keyboard with a tiny little LED screen in it to type all my work on, because they could at least read my fucking work that way. Because, I mean, my handwriting was so poor, they couldn't read most of what I was trying to write. Which is sad, but I mean, on the other hand, it is what it is. It wasn't until about 7th grade that my classmates started being big enough assholes to be like, well, if she gets one, I want one, and eventually, suddenly, everybody in the class had one. It's like, oh my god, you guys don't even need this. You just want it because I had a thing to help me that you didn't have. Cool. Anyway, it's one of the few times that I had, like, a handicap aid for schooling. I didn't get many things to help me, but that was one thing that helped me big time, and I was already very well adjusted to typing, so I was actually able to keep up for things like notes for the first time in my life. Do you understand how bad this sucked? Going into 8th grade and into high school and suddenly not having access to that, and being expected to do it by hand, and somehow be able to keep up, and be able to legibly read it back later? Yeah, add another tally to the list of things that led towards my eventual dropout. But for this, I got to where I was like, I already wrote stories from the time I was teeny tiny. I used to like dictate them to my mom to write down for me when I was like 3. Somewhere I still have the earliest ones I ever wrote. I didn't know back then that there was a word for the genre of fan fiction, but apparently I was writing fan fiction as a 3-year-old. It was completely innocent before anybody gets weird about it, but I was like writing Bugs Bunny fan fiction as a 3-year-old. But I mean, you know, by the time I got my typewriter, I was writing shit like Super Mario Saves the Rainforest. I don't know, man. That one in particular lives rent-free in my head. I don't know why that one stands out is the one I remember, even though I wrote tons of them. It was like every night when I was done with like my homework and stuff, freaking whipped out some paper, got comfy on my bed, and I'm sitting there just writing stories about whatever. A lot of times it happened to be cartoon or video game characters and putting them into scenarios that had nothing to do with the universe that they are from. Doesn't matter. I respect the creativity, you know? Like, there's something to be said for that. But, you know, the nerdy loner kid, you know, I had to do something to pass the time. But just there were so many of these damn things that I had laying around that it is honestly shocking that I have never actually published anything for as much crap as I've written. Am I saying it was good? No. I'm just saying that it amused me. But, like, the desire was there, and it never entirely left. I still, albeit not on a typewriter, I do it on a computer, sometimes on my phone now. Just to pass the time, I'll just, like, whip off something real quick just to have written something, just to satisfy the urge. But, I don't know. But that typewriter holds a special place in my heart. And I'm like, even though I have no functional need for one that I can't do on a computer, or even on, like, say, my setup with my iPad, and I have a Bluetooth keyboard, it's basically doing the same thing. But part of me still kind of wants one. I might buy one day again. I don't know. But I mean, I understand why suddenly it's becoming a trendy thing, though, for things like the free write. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. It's a device that, unfortunately, I feel is horribly overpriced for what it is, but it's basically a distraction-free keyboard with a screen in it, kind of like the thing I used to use in school. It's like they took that idea and just recycled it, because no one makes those anymore, so they made one again. It's basically that. But that's genius, because a lot of us kind of got really ADD with our writing on a computer with, like, all the little notifications in the background and shit, and all of a sudden, oh, let me Google this. Next thing I know, I'm checking emails, I'm checking social media, I'm on YouTube. I've completely forgotten what I was doing. to have a dedicated thing where it serves one purpose and one purpose only, I like that. That works well with how my brain works. I love that. That's why I'm like, part of me kind of does want to go back to like an old school typewriter setup, but part of me is also like, well, I mean, if I could justify throwing the money at it, I would get a free, right? There's also things like BYOK, like bring your own keyboard, where essentially it's the LCD readout display, and you have just like a Bluetooth keyboard like I have with my iPad, and you just link it to it, and it does the same thing, and it's considerably cheaper. I think that thing is still in crowdfunding for right now. I don't think it's like open to the general public yet. It's still Kickstarter, that's the word I'm looking for. It's still in Kickstarter mode. If it gets to the point where it's like actually properly available to everybody, I may very well do that. Because I'm like, I feel like I got a lot accomplished when it was like a distraction-free thing like that. Because sure, if I'm doing it on my phone or on the iPad, I can turn it into do not disturb mode, but that doesn't solve the problem of I can just open a browser and get distracted over there, or open apps, get distracted over there. If I don't have the option available to me, and I'm on this device and I don't have anything else near me, it's perfect. I love that. And it's like, especially as I'm starting to delve more deeply into writing again lately, this all seems to be coming back to me again, where I'm like, I kind of want one. I don't know if I can justify it, but I kind of want one. Because I'm trying to mimic what it does with that setup. And it kind of works half the time it doesn't, because half the time I do still get distracted with the other apps. There used to be a program, I forget how many computers ago it was, I think it was called Write or Die, where basically it had a timer, and as long as you're typing, it won't mess with you, but if you stop for so much as like, I think 30 seconds, it'll start a countdown timer, and if it gets all the way down, it'll play like an obnoxious, annoying sound, and the only way to make it stop is to start again. On one hand, yeah, it keeps you from getting distracted into other apps, but on the other hand, it adds a whole stressful element into it to the point where you can't really get into proper immersive storytelling mode like that. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. I'm like, I kind of just want to go back to my old school way of doing it. And at my big age of 40, I'm like, I suddenly understand exactly why my grandpa didn't want a computer. I totally get it now. I get why he liked his old school typewriter where it did one thing and one thing only, and it did it well, and he knew how it worked, and he was good with it. I respect that, honestly. I think it took till like the final maybe 2 or 3 years of his life that he finally got a laptop. He didn't even get to use it that much. I think he was already done with all like the Horseman stuff by then, but he was basically just using it for emails at that point. It's like, this probably would have served you so much better if you had gotten it at least a decade earlier, but come to think of it, I don't really know what happened to that laptop after he died. That's strange, come to think of it, but my uncle probably got it, but yeah, I get it though. Like, I get that we're getting further and further technologically, but there is something to be said for the simplicity of certain things. There's something to be said for back when devices had like their own set purpose, like when a phone was just a phone, when an iPod did nothing but play music, when a typewriter did the one thing, like, you see what I'm getting at. Like, sure, it took more devices to do all the things, and while I don't take for granted that we have everything at our fingertips, there's something to be said for everything having its purpose, and for being able to lock in on that thing and not have your brain constantly divided into about like 10 different open tabs at any given time, because it's constantly torn between all these different things all at once. I can't be the only one who feels this way, right? There wouldn't be all these devices coming out now that literally just do the one thing if I were the only one. So I'm positive I'm not alone in this, but I'm not sure if amongst my audience here, if anyone else can relate or not, I don't know, but there was something just so satisfying about like the clack, 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 typing on an actual typewriter. So satisfying. And I have like gone out of my way to seek out external keyboards for my computers. Even when the built-in ones are totally fine, there's nothing wrong with them, I like that tactile feedback. I love that. I love the clacky sound. I love the feeling of it like snapping back with each button. Like, I love that. I can't be the only one, right? Like, part of me goes, I just wasn't made for these times, but on the other hand, no, I'm grateful I was born when I was, but man, there's certain things that I'm like, I see why we move past them, but at the same time, I want to bring them back. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm kind of just stream of consciousing, so I'm going to wrap this up. As usual, you guys know what to do. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. If you're not already and you'd like to be, click subscribe. Hit that notification bell icon so you never miss an upload. Leave comments down below. Make sure you're following my social media accounts, my Facebook fan page, my Twitter, my Instagram, my eBay, my Reddits, everything and more. It's all down below. And if you like what I do here on this channel and you'd like to help support it, the donation link, as always, is down in the description. Get your name on the end card for a month from the time I'm donating. Anyway, guys, until next time, see ya.